Hi everyone, it's Jade here. I hope that you're having a good time today. Let me just adjust this mic a little bit. I just wanted to kind of say hello and everything before we start kicking off and everything. So yeah, guys, hi and everything. Well, I want to chat quickly about what we're going to be up to through the series of webinars. As you may have guessed from the name of it, #1 week song challenge. I want everyone to pick a song that would suit their voices and go through it with me. And I'm joining as well, guys. I'm going to be picking a song. Well, I've already kind of got an idea in my head of which song that I'm going to work on. Is one that actually my people decided that they wanted to work on, and I decided that actually I quite like that song. I think that might be good. I had the idea of the webinar in the back of my head at that point anyway, so I thought, this would be a good one to do. You know, the like kind of I've got a plan. A plan is coming together and everything. So yeah, I wanted to kind of look at what we're doing and stuff this week. The idea behind it, everyone, is that, you know, for me, deadlines, I've had a strained relationship, you would say, with deadlines. And that, if I go back to when I was at university, I wasn't exactly the most scholarly person or the most dedicated person that's ever went to uni ever. I was the kind of person where, being a student and everything, I was the one that was always like doing all-nighters the night before something had to be handed in. I was always a person that, even when I was kind of halfway through doing my masters and stuff, I would be like, I've been thinking about this for a long time, thinking and thinking and thinking for such an incredibly long time about things, but delaying the putting things into action. I think that's always been my problem, pretty much. Thinking too much and doing too little, and not doing things as in not doing them to be lazy, but I kind of almost realize now when I look back on it, I'm trying to improve the way that I work myself. Made me realize that I had this gap in the way that I was trying to go about things. It was almost like, if I think of a kind of timeline or something, that if I kind of almost leapfrogged into you think about things for a long time, and then all of a sudden I expected to kind of leapfrog from thinking about something to having a perfect finished product. And I'd completely forgotten about this bit that's in the middle between thinking about things that I want to do. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing, you don't want to skip past that. It's an important process, or part of the process, that you visualize what your goal is, you articulate it, and you have a clear sense of where it is you want to be. It's a huge thing for when you're first starting, to have that clear goal in your head. But one of the things that I guess overlooked is the doing things as a process as well. You get better at things as you're doing it. As much as I say to my pupils, when you come to sing, that a lot of people think that you can sing or you just can't. And it's not as black and white as that. You could have people that maybe have an inherent natural ability to sing. Maybe they got that from family or something. But they might not be too adept of being able to carry it through. They might not be particularly interested themselves. They can have an innate ability to sing, but they have no interest in it. That's fair enough. You have somebody that's maybe have less of a natural ability or natural affinity to singing, but they just work out of their bones. They work so incredibly hard. And naturally, their voice is going to improve because they're dedicated and focused on it. It's all part of a process. Where I've went wrong before is that because I'm a perfectionist, and let's be honest, probably a bit impatient and stuff as well. I almost wanted to kind of avoid this little gap here of having to go through the process of doing things and feeling frustrated because you think that what you're doing kind of sucks a little bit, and then that it could be better, but quite know why, and then you have to go back to the drawing board and back to square one, redrafting and testing. But this is something that we can't avoid. Everyone, it's a process that you have to kind of get to. You're never going to get to that end goal of having what you perceive as something being pretty good, excellent, perfect, whatever way you want to describe it. You have to start by being a little bit rubbish. That's why I put in my chat box thing. Small wins are where it all begins. I don't even know where I saw that. Maybe I just conjured it up. I don't know. But everyone, in my kind of various groups I go to and stuff, they always kind of emphasize the importance of celebrating the small wins, because that's what keeps you going. That's what keeps you motivated. This kind of webinar series is all about keeping happy, keeping focused, keeping motivated. Please don't overlook the little achievements and the little wins that you gain as part of the journey. They're so important to keep you focused. They're so important to help you realize what it is that you're trying to achieve. It's very easy when all you see is a kind of the perfect ideal of what you want to do, but it's a way off in the distance. Think about what your small win is going to be. This series is all about doing the small wins, having a process for getting these little small wins. So at the end of the week, we should be like, boom, 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 boom. We've done all these little small wins, but they actually add up to something that's pretty decent. At the end of the week, we're going to be memorizing a song completely. Well, I think that's great. I think that's brilliant. So let's go through into our first kind of action steps now. I've got kind of 5 main things I want to chat to you about today. This is all about action steps for the first part of this kind of series. Action steps for preparation. So number 1, think about choosing your song. If you haven't already, please let me know if you've got any kind of comments or questions or anything like that about, say, voice range or something. The important aspects for choosing a song for this series is that don't do anything too complicated. So something that's probably like 4/4 time signature, as is the case of most pop and musical theatre songs. Though some folk songs, they can be easy to learn as well. So it might be, if it's a folky kind of thing you'd like to do, it might be in 6/8 or 3/4. But that is relatively okay. It's quite predictable and quite simple. Some not simple as in simplistic, but just predictable. It has a level of predictability about the structure. That's the other thing that I need to mention as well. When you're choosing the song, make sure that it has a relatively easy and predictable structure. Usually with a pop song, you've got verse, chorus, maybe a bridge bit in the middle, verse, chorus, maybe chorus for a second time, and that's, you finished the song. So having a predictable structure will help a lot with the memorizing as well. Also kind of thing to remember is making sure that you pick a song that you enjoy. You'd be surprised how much easier it is to memorize something if you enjoy it and you want to learn it, you want to memorize it. It doesn't feel like a chore. And that can make a huge difference to how much easier and better it can make things, So second of all, I want to look at what we're doing with getting the preparation ready. Assuming now that we've chosen a song, relatively simple song, simple as in predictable structure, in one of the more common time signatures, 4/4 would be my first suggestion. If you're a folk singer, you're probably more likely to be performing in 3/4 or 6/8 or something like that. But that's absolutely fine. If you're used to it, that's fine. So next thing, now that we've decided we got our song, is to look at how are we going to memorize it? What do we need in front of us? So we're talking in terms of equipment and stuff. And when I mean equipment, it doesn't have to be anything really fancy or anything like that. Far from it. In fact, the simpler the better in terms of this kind of thing. So what we need first of all is a lyrics sheet. So this is the time, guys, when you've got your song, get on the old Google and stuff. do something like the name of the song and just put in like lyrics. That should be enough to find the lyrics for a song. That's one of the reasons why I've suggested that you choose a relatively simple song and has a predictable structure and stuff, and that the ones that become more and more complicated, they become like less and less well known, becomes more difficult for you to find the resources that you need, such as lyrics. Do a quick Google on any newish kind of pop song or modern song, you're probably going to be able to find the lyrics in like 2 seconds or something. Then that's what you need. We don't need to put any barriers into our learning right now. We don't need that added complication. So once you've got your lyric sheet and found it on Google and stuff, go onto your page with your lyrics. See if you can copy all of the lyrics out of there and put it into, the copy and paste job, put it into a Word document. So when you paste it, you can do like as soon as you press the Control V for paste, isn't it? As soon as you do that, don't touch anything, keep the whole thing like it's been put into the document but it's still highlighted, then right click and it says something like clear formatting or something like that, or is it something like match destination formatting or something? So if you've already got a selected font in the document, or you've got a default, it's probably something like Times New Roman or a Sans or something like that. It'll, when you do the right click and you say the match destination formatting, then it changes it for you automatically. If that doesn't happen, or if you don't do it for whatever reason, all is not lost. All you need to do is press Control A for basically select all, then go up and select your fonts and stuff like that. So we need to do some formatting of our lyrics. Assuming that we've got our lyrics now, quick Google should do it. Let me know if you have any problems with finding lyrics for a particular song. I can maybe try and help source things for you or something. So we've got our lyrics in the sheet stuff now. Now we need to do some formatting in the document. When I say this, guys, I'm assuming that you're probably, like most people, are going to be copy and pasting the lyrics and chucking it inside a Word document or something like that. But you might fancy doing it handwritten kind of style, and that's what I've done today. I'm assuming that people will probably use a computer or something because it can be a bit quicker. But sometimes people have that, what do you call it? People are kinesthetic learners, and that they learn by doing something or some physical movement to reinforce what they're doing. So something that helps me to learn, especially when it comes to memorizing things, is the act of actually handwriting it all down. Yeah, I know that sounds like a real faff, doesn't it? And to be fair, it is sometimes, especially if it's a long song. But just having that kind of calm time of sitting down with my notepad and my pen, writing each word, is I find it quite relaxing. But it also helps me concentrate on phrase by phrase. So that's the good thing about it. You can do it in a Word document or something, or you can do it with, handwritten. But I want to keep the formatting that I suggest the same. Doesn't matter what it is, if you do it in a Word document or if it's a handwritten document or whatever. So some of the things that I'll talk about is, referring to Word documents, but the end result should be the same as if you're going to handwrite it. So with that, with the formatting, first thing to do is to make sure that you have gaps between each line. So make sure that you have at least double spacing between each line of the song, the lyrics. And the good thing about looking for things like lyrics on Google and stuff like that is that actually the way that people write the lyrics are usually pretty good, in that they'll write it line by line, but usually each line is basically like, this is all the stuff that you sing in one breath, if you see what I mean. They'll do one phrase and then the next line and then the next phrase or something. So you can follow it pretty much like when you've got the lyrics well formatted and clear, it helps you actually to know where you're going to breathe as well. Each line pretty much should be one breath. You might get shorter ones where you have, a few kind of lyrics, and you get parts in a song where melismas and you go for a long time or something, then you'll need to breathe a wee bit more often. But chances are, like most of the time, each line equals one breath, which is a pretty good thing to remember. It helps to remember. One of the first things that goes out the window when people are trying to memorize songs is their breathing gets really, really bad sometimes. So yeah, then we've got to our formatting that's double spacing. So easy enough to find a double spacing and to adjust it in a Word document. If you're handwriting, just make sure that there's big clear gaps between each line. So you might write a line, then skip a line and write a second line. You know, if it's a lined paper or something, you might be freestyling it on plain paper. See if you can try and keep to the lines, or write with a ruler or something like that. So you've got clear spaces and the format is very clear and it's universal right through the whole document. So next thing with your formatting and stuff is to make sure that you have a very clear font. So open sans kind of thing or something. I'm trying to remember the names of some of the fonts that I like. I'm not much of a design buffering like that, but times New Roman, if you can't think of anything like that, I mean, that I can't think of anything else, that's okay. There's ones called kind of sans fonts, so there's open sans, and there's ones called Lato or Lato, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. There's one called Montserrat that I really like. I use it for everything. I don't know if any of you use Canva, but there's a font on there called Glacial something, but I really like that because it's so clear as well. So if you're handwriting, guys, please make sure that you take your time. We don't want any doctor's notes type scribbles or anything like that. When you look back at your thing, you're like, what does that say? And you're kind of peering and stuff. Please take your time to make the writing really, really clear. You'll thank yourself later when you come back to it. Yeah. So font size should be like 14 or larger. We don't want to scrimp on the size of the writing to make it as easy to see it as possible. Same thing for handwriters. If you take your time, we'll tend to find that your writing will end up being a bit bigger. When you're not scribbling frantically or something. I don't even know if people handwrite many things nowadays. It seems like everyone's sitting behind a screen at some point. So actually, maybe the sheer novelty of handwriting something will make you feel like, oh, this is relaxing. I can take my time. It's nice and clear. Okay, this is good. This is better than binging some Netflix or something, Then we're going to look at the structure. Something that I mentioned before previously was making sure that it's line by line with the phrasing. So remember, it's like one line equals one breath, and make sure that you put that right throughout the whole document. Yeah. So now we're going to go on to point number 3 about preparation, and that's to think about what we're doing for any kind of music or reference material that we want. So for sheet music, I'm assuming that most people would want to use the sheet music and stuff. Yeah. So I've got a couple of websites that I use like just about every day, finding material, finding songs and things. So they're really good for like kind of finding new songs, modern songs and things like that. So the ones that I use most often, there's one called sheetmusicdirect.com and musicnotes.com. So sheetmusicdirect.com, musicnotes.com, they're both really good for having a huge collection of new songs, modern songs. I like them because they're one of the websites where you can purchase the sheet music, but then you print it off at home. So like the price of the sheet music varies a lot depending on what kind of format you want. Usually I pick the PVG, and that stands for piano, vocal, and guitar. I can play a bit of piano, but to be honest, I'm not particularly great at it. So the way that I play the piano is based on the guitar chords. I do mostly like learning the chords and then playing it from there kind of thing. Sometimes the actual piano accompaniment parts are just too complicated and too difficult for me to do it. So it takes me a little while sometimes to learn it, and sometimes you don't have enough time to learn the full part. So having the guitar chords is pretty good for doing stuff like that. There's something in musicnotes.com. There's a particular format that I think is quite good. It's called is it Singers Pro? I think that's what it is. And that's like an addition to the normal PVG format. So they have the piano and the vocal and the guitar chords there, but they also kind of make sure that the main singer, the person that's singing the melody all the time, has their own stave completely to themselves and right through the whole song. So that can make it a lot easier to learn, because if you're the person that's doing the main melody, it's a lot easier to follow it. Whereas some parts of different sheet music, what tends to happen is that if you have a vocal harmony or something, then you're sharing the stave with the harmony. And what the kind of difficulty there is that sometimes if you're looking at the sheet music with the dots, it can be difficult to decipher which notes are yours, because you've got two notes or three notes, I don't know, on the one part of the sheet music, on say the treble clef or something. You might forget which note is you're meant to be singing, and say you've forgotten the melody a little bit or something. So then all of a sudden you're just like, oh, help, I can't remember which note I'm meant to be singing. Am I the top note or the middle note or the bottom note? Which one am I can't remember. So it's good for having a Singers Pro, and the main singer never shares their stave with anyone. So it's really good for that. You don't have to have that thing of worrying in the back of your head when harmonies come in or something, and you're thinking about, oh, what note am I meant to be doing? So I would recommend that if you are looking for a sheet music for it. Though I appreciate that not everyone can read sheet music, so it's not compulsory. Some people just find it quite useful, especially if they want to accompany themselves. If you're a singer-songwriter or something, if you want to play the piano or play the guitar or anything like that while you sing, it can be really helpful to have a sheet music as a guide. Especially with if you do like some Google searches for, say, a particular song, you get things like guitar chord websites and stuff that give you just the chords, but sometimes they're not specific as to whether or not it's still in the original key or they've changed it. Sometimes the people change the key, or they reformat it so that they do it on guitar, that do the capo and stuff, so that you're playing one particular chord, but because you've got your capo on, you're staying in you're actually in a different key. It's just the formatting of the chords is easier, or it's more familiar for people, so you have to be kind of wary of that. I want to make sure as well, everyone, that if you're going to buy sheet music, please don't be tempted to photocopy anything. I can tell you that the only circumstance in which photocopying is deemed acceptable is that, say, for instance, if you're doing a performance or something and you have a piano accompanist, sometimes just for practicality kind of reasons, you might have the original sheet music with you, but you decide to do a photocopy of the music just because it's easier for the piano accompanist to have the photocopy music in front of the piano, rather than if it's, say, in a big folder or something. There's no way that folder or that lyric book is going to stay in front of the piano. It's going to fold up and it's going to flop down onto the floor just when you need it the most. But even then, you can't get away with just having the photocopy. You have to have the original sheet music with you to show that I'm just using this to change format so it's easier for my accompanist. That's a good thing about the sheet music companies that I've mentioned. I should be quite should say now, I don't have any affiliation. I don't get any kickbacks or commissions or anything like that. This is just impartial advice of this is what I use, and is quite budget friendly. If you buy a whole book of a selection of sheet music, sometimes you'll maybe to spend it can be £15-20 on a book. You might only use one or two songs, whereas if you go on one of these websites, it maybe costs £3, £4, or £5 or something, depending on the format. But at least then you're getting the songs that you want, and you can print it out straight away. They also give you a digital copy of whatever sheet music that you've purchased, so you can use their company apps. That's something that I do all the time. I print out my paper copy, But it's been really handy for me, especially if my pupils forget their sheet music or something, that it's like, oh, well, all is not lost. I can use my iPad and I can put on my, tap my little screen, and it's got a digital copy of the sheet music for that particular song there. As I use that as a backup all the time. It's really, really handy. So if you do need sheet music, please don't do any photocopying. Make sure that all of your sources are legit as they were. Please let me know if you have any problems with sourcing sheet music for the particular song that you want, especially if it's very new or by a kind of not very well-known artist. There can be a real problem there. A lot of people don't actually go to the problem of notating their songs, especially if they're a lesser known artist. If it gets pretty difficult, and if it isn't in one of these kind of websites that I use all the time, you might have to consider choosing a different song if you absolutely need the sheet music. So the next thing for you to do as well is thinking about what we're going to do with learning the song, and that involves listening. Yeah, it's one of the things that some teachers don't mention because, well, okay, I could go through my little kind of reasoning behind it. A lot of teachers won't tell you to, or won't advise you to listen to any recordings of a song before you learn it. But I think I understand the reasons why. And that's because a lot of teachers are worried that if you listen to a couple of different recordings as you're learning a song, you're going to pick up on the eccentricities of the other artists that are performing. A kind of good example of that is, say, in classical music, Maria Callas. She has a lot of kind of, we call her runs, because she was like a coloratura soprano, and she created her own melodies, and that was like part of the tradition of particular arias. You have a free part where you can basically just make it up. And she was always very well known for creating these really interesting, intricate, and difficult runs. And so to this day, people still copy the Maria Callas runs, or cadenzas as they call them. That's her kind of way of doing it, as it were, but it's quite well accepted for particular songs, especially in classical music. You try the Maria Callas cadenza, you try one made by, other famous coloratura sopranos, Sumi Jo or somebody like that, you see. But with pop music, there's a kind of difficulty there, in that you might pick up things, or the worry is you might pick up things that aren't actually core material of the song. So, say another example is that Adele is incredibly popular just now, and the problem is with her songs is that bless her, she's a fantastic singer, and she's from London. She's a Londoner, and sometimes you can hear that a little bit in the way that she says things. Like, say for instance, in Skyfall, there's this bit that to be fair, I kind of laugh at a wee bunny. I just think it's a bit funny, where she says something about Skyfall, and she's crumble. She says crumble, like really like Cockney. It always makes me laugh when I get to that bit, But that's the thing that we're talking about here, is that if you learn Skyfall, your singing teacher, it doesn't matter if it's me or if it's somebody else or something. Some people that advise against listening to songs, and that's why, because if you listen to an Adele song, they don't want you to end up sounding Cockney. Do you know what I mean? That would sound completely ridiculous. As somebody like me, like I'm born and bred in Scotland and stuff, how ridiculous would it sound if I was sang an Adele song and all of a sudden I sounded like I was from London? Yeah, it seems like you have a kind of London accent or something like that. So important part of the process of listening is making sure that you can decipher between the core material, so the melody and the rhythms and things like that, and maybe the kind of harmonies and stuff like that. But things that are unique to a particular singer. So say for instance, in the example of Adele, her accent comes through sometimes in the way that she pronounces words and the way that she Calderville's or something, there's like a little tinge of London in there, and that's a great thing. But if you're from Scotland or you're from a completely different part of the world, you don't want to sing a song as if you're from London. That you don't want to sound like a Londoner. So it's being aware of that. That people are human, and their personality and their way of singing things are going to come through in the songs that they perform. And you need to be able to decipher between that. So things like accents, or runs or cadenzas and things as well. If there's a free-ish kind of part of the song where singers are expected to do things that, it's a bit more up to them what they do, and it's a kind of interpretation kind of thing. You could have the option of doing the same run or a cadenza as everyone else, but sometimes it's great to make up your own one. But that's another kind of thing to bear in mind as well, is the interpretation of the song. One singer might sing a song in a particular way that emphasizes one word. Second singer comes along, gets the same phrase, and they much prefer emphasizing a completely different word in that phrase. This is one of the reasons why I encourage people to listen to different songs, or different versions of, not different songs, sorry, I'll correct that. It's different versions of the same song by different artists, because I think it makes it easier to decipher between core material and things that are the little nuances and eccentricities of a particular artist. With phrasing being a prime example, you'll notice where somebody's emphasis on a particular word, or the way that they try and describe a particular word or phrase it, and do something with it to help spark the imagination. One singer might do it to a really, really effective way. They might do it to like a brilliant kind of genius level. One singer just kind of falls flat in their face. They don't the way that they sing it might be quite monotonous, not interesting at all, doesn't have any personality between it in the way that they're singing it and stuff like that. So another aspect of interpretation is, depending on the song, like humor, their delivery of particular words, and that comes into word painting and things like that. We're going to go a little bit more into that kind of thing is later on in the webinar, but we're just going to kind of go into it a little bit, because that's more into really niching down on how to create a good interpretation, but that's not really the main purpose of this webinar. Our main purpose is to help you to memorize all the material and stuff, but it's important to make sure that you think that you've got all the different core parts of the song down, deciphering between what is absolutely essential and what is unique to a particular performance. And so the next thing we're going to do, tip number 5, is to look at what we're doing in terms of accompaniment. So you might be a lucky person that you might have a piano accompanist sitting there waiting, and you can just put the sheet music in front of them and you can go, and that's great. You might be able to accompany yourself, and that's also brilliant. Some people aren't able to read sheet music and they don't have an accompanist or anything like that. They might not have the budget for it. So let's think of some free alternatives that we can do. They're not quite as good as a piano accompanist. I would say if you have the money, time, and inclination, I would highly recommend having a piano accompanist over, say, using backing tracks, just because you got that greater freedom. But you know what? Things like Spotify and iTunes and things like that can be really, really good at finding some free things that will help you to remember and to go through the song and to help you memorize it. It's really important, guys, to remember that once you learn or listen to the song a couple of times, like say that's on iTunes or Spotify or whatever, you have to start kind of getting away from the original recording. You listen to it to find the core material that you need. Do it a few times, even though I do that later on tonight, but I say by this time tomorrow night, I want you to start using just the accompaniment that doesn't have the voice there. I don't think anyone quite realizes how much singers rely on the other voice that's there when they're performing, like with a recording. This is how most people like practice a song. They'll maybe have like their telly in the corner here, and they're kind of binge watching, Breaking Bad or whatever. So that's kind of blaring in the corner and stuff, and they've kind of typed in stuff on Spotify or something like that. They're playing their song and singing along to it. I always remember the kind of look of shock on people's faces when they kind of realize when they do a instrumental track without the other voice, like how lost they can look and how lost they can feel because they don't have the other voice there. They don't realize how much they're dependent on the other voice to give them their cues and to tell them when they should be breathing, because you can hear that in recording sometimes. You can hear when people are breathing to get ready for the next phrase. All these aspects of timing that they're relying on the other voice for. So as quickly as you can, guys, have a listen to your song a couple of times tonight, and tomorrow find this unaccompanied, like, not unaccompanied, so a track but without the vocals there. In fact, you can look for it tonight and get it ready. Start with it tomorrow. You can load it up on your phone, use it as you're going into your commute to work, sing along to it in the morning and on your way home, and have a go a couple of times at night as well. So if you're looking for a song, say if we're on Spotify or something, I just use that as example because that's one I use the most often. Excuse me. So put in your song title and then a space and then the word backing. Or if that doesn't work, put in the song title again and try with the space and then put in the word instrumental. Sometimes that can work. Another option that's really popular as well is put in the song title, space and karaoke. There's a lot of people don't know how to spell karaoke, so Karaoke. If that doesn't work, put in the song title and the name of the artist and then the word karaoke. That usually comes up with something. Another good website that I use quite often as well, when those options on Spotify and iTunes don't give me a good backing track that I can use, also look at karaokeversion.com, and that is karaoke-version.com. There's about £2 or £3 on there that you can buy an accompaniment track on there. They're pretty good kind of quality, and it's one of these things, guys, that once you've bought it, you got it for forever. You got it to the end of time. So it can be really good for kind of having stuff like that ready. I want to show you, actually, before we kind of finish up today, I want to show you my little thing that I've been doing with my accompaniment thing. In fact, a minute, I'll need to change this about a little bit. Hang on. So we changed it to a better. Let's see. Let's change this about. Hey, burn. This is the kind of format that we're looking at, guys. So now I've taken my time to write really clearly, spaces between the lines, and the kind of size is font to 14 or maybe larger and stuff like that. But I've written it line by line with the phrasing. So one line equals one breath. Let me just change that back. Thought I'd like you to show you that. So I'm going to get going soon, guys, but I want to kind of sum up our 5 main points there. So number 1, going through the song, choosing your song if you haven't already. Make sure that the one that you do choose has a really simple kind of structure, a predictable structure, verse, chorus, bridge, and all that kind of thing. Find your lyric sheet, just like I showed you with my chosen song, Burn. Make sure it is very well kind of spaced with the words, clear formatted in open sans or something. Do a quick Google so you can find the words, and just it's a copy and paste job. If you haven't done that before, you can do things where you match destination formatting. So if you've already got kind of presets there already, it helps to save time. Make sure you have a printout of the document stuff, and keep it with you as you're trying to memorize stuff. The structure line by line, so that each line equals one breath pretty much. It makes it easier as well. If you need to find sheet music, Point number 3, we need to look at musicnotes.com or sheetmusicdirect.com. Those are my 2 top tips for websites that are really good. I would say you could try on Music Notes the Singers Pro version, which is a format where the vocal line is always kind of at the top and very easy to see. So listening options and stuff as well. I would encourage you to listen to as many different versions of the song that you've chosen as you can. And we have to work quite hard between deciphering between core material, the melody and rhythm and all that kind of thing, and the things that are unique to that particular performance, whereas like accents, cadenzas and runs, somebody's personality coming through in the way that they sing things and their interpretation of stuff, whether that's an emphasis on a particular word or not, or whatever they've done to change it about compared to different performances by different artists. Last thing is to find an accompaniment when it's there. So do a quick look for the song title, maybe the name of the artist, and then put in the word karaoke. That usually will come up with something. Or karaoke-version.com is an also really, really good option as well. So please feel free to send me a message. Jane@musicis40.co.uk. That's everything for tonight, folks. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I'm going to see you same time tomorrow. Thanks now, bye-bye.